Welcome to Impact News. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Impact News. I want to start with a commentary. Folks, why are transgendered people being so demonized, particularly by Republicans? Folks, in 2010, you are not going to want to hear this, but I will have to tell it to you. In 2010, a study by UC Berkeley indicated that the pesticide atrazine, turns male frogs into females. That's right, folks. Get that right. Atrazine is one of the world's most widely used pesticides. It's everywhere, folks, everywhere. Apparently, the male frogs are missing testosterone and all the things that testosterone controls, including, in many cases, semen, sperm, all right? The pesticide emasculates 3/4 of the frogs studied and turns 1 in 10 into females. That's right, folks. And we all took biology, so we know the frog is the most basic, one of the most basic forms of human life. And changes happen first in frogs, and then they jump to humans. All right. Now, this is all coming from the study from UC Berkeley. The 75% that are chemically castrated are essentially dead because of their inability to reproduce in the wild. The 10% that turn into males, well, they actually can successfully mate with male frogs, but because they're really females that are genetically male, all they can produce are male offspring, which is not helpful, as you know, when it comes to reproducing, and all you have are males. Can't do anything with that, Well, you should know that some 80 million pounds of the herbicide atrazine are applied annually in the United States on corn and sorghum to control weeds and to increase yields. Atrazine is the most commonly used pesticide. It is the most common pesticide contaminant of ground and surface water. Everywhere you go, somehow that atrazine is in either your food you're eating or the water you're drinking, we should also know that more and more research is showing that atrazine interferes with endocrine hormones such as estrogen and testosterone. And who does it interfere with them in? Get this. Fish, amphibians, birds, reptiles, laboratory rodents, and even humans. And it does it in very small levels, So stop demonizing people and demonizing transgender people. They're just trying to live just like everybody else, just like you. Instead, let's demonize the people and companies who are responsible for poisoning our food. Gender issues are just one of a bunch of problems that this is causing. And if they can keep you going against transgender people, you won't stop to think, wait a minute, how is this happening? Who should I really be upset with? You should be upset with the companies that are poisoning you because they know they are poisoning you. Remember, I said this study at UC Berkeley, that was done in 2010, 12 years ago. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Here are your news stories from around the neighborhood and around the world. Folks, some of the stories that we're going to talk to you today are, first of all, a teacher fired for calling a student the N-word. Oh, yes. The news on the astronomical rise in neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, ALS, and Parkinson's. We'll give you the reason for that. Plus, researchers say they have a molecule that kills hard to treat cancers. We also have some international news for you, as well as Dr. K. Stay with us. From Oklahoma, folks, a Tulsa cop is on restrictive duty after leaked audio shows him touting beautiful, that's the word he called it, police brutality on protesters. That's right, folks. Apparently someone secretly recorded Sergeant Mike Griffin as he was addressing the police academy, getting them ready. All right, and talking about using violence against protesters during the summer of 2020. He told the class he and his fellow officers relished smoking, that is his term, smoking anti-police brutality protesters. So they are teaching the police academy, the students at the police academy, the future police officers, that they had a great time smoking people who were protesting against police brutality. That's how they're training them. That's a problem. All right, they relish smoking anti-police brutality protesters, saying they hate this country and want us to look more like the old Soviet Union. Ooh, they're pathetic. Griffin added that nothing is more dangerous to America than a liberal white person. Whew. Moving on from Indiana, a high school teacher is out of a job. That's because that teacher, John Donovan, yelled the N-word at a student. That's right, folks. He was terminated by the Kankakee School Board after the release of multiple videos recorded by students. Thank you, students, for keeping that in check. The teacher not only hurled the N-word at the student, but weeks ago also reportedly threw a book at the student's leg. Oh, yes. The student said that he reported the book incident to administrators multiple times. I guess unless they call you the N-word, that's obviously a horrible thing. But imagine a teacher throwing a book at a student's legs. He tells the administrators and they don't do anything about it. I mean, come on. And a black woman is suing L'Oreal, claiming the company's chemical straightening products caused her uterine cancer. 32-year-old Missouri resident Jenny Mitchell, she's seeking $75,000 to hold the company accountable. She's an Army veteran who says she began using the products around 2000. In August of 2018, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer despite having no family history of cancer. A new study published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, it found that people who use chemical hair straightening products more than 4 times in a year are more than twice as likely to develop uterine cancer than those who didn't use those products at all. Don't use those hair straighteners. From Hawaii, officials there are warning residents of the Big Island that the world's largest active volcano, Mauna Loa, may erupt, folks. That's right. There has been a recent spike in earthquakes near the summit. Experts say it would take just a few hours for lava to reach residents' homes. Mauna Loa last erupted in 1984 and has erupted 33 times since 1843. Let's move on. We'll look at your health. There is an astronomical rise in neurological disorders. We're talking Parkinson's disease, ALS, and Alzheimer's. Now experts think it could be due to exposure to environmental toxins. That's right. We're talking about the rise in exposure to chemicals, and we're talking about microplastics, air pollution, forever chemicals, pesticides, and more. In the U.S., you should know communities of color, indigenous people, and low-income families are far more likely to be exposed to these pollutants because of unsafe housing, unsafe water, manufacturing and agricultural jobs, proximity to hazards such as roads that carry these chemicals down the roads, and polluting industrial plants that are in their neighborhoods. The dangerous toxins we're talking about are asbestos, glyphosates, and formaldehyde. They continue to be used widely in agriculture, also in construction, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics. Oh, yes. And they're used here in the U.S. despite being banned in other countries around the world. The brain, you know, is the most complex organ in the body and the most important since it runs everything, okay? And is likely the most sensitive to environmental toxins. We've got to try to get this climate under control, and that part of that are these toxins. All right, let's go to more on your health, where Dallas researchers have reportedly created a molecule that kills hard-to-treat cancers. That's right. Scientists at UT Dallas and UT Southwestern, they say the discovery could help patients with an aggressive form of breast cancer. Dr. Young Mo and Dr. Ganesh Raj, those are the scientists who are on the job here. They say they tested the molecule in isolated cells in human cancer tissue and in mice, and they expect to be able to test that drug on humans starting in mid-2023. So that's good news. Then looking at the diaspora from the Dominican Republic, crackdowns on migrants and a military buildup is what the government claims will guarantee border security amidst the challenges with Haiti. Some folks are worried that the move is going to make the long-existing xenophobia against Haitians even worse, Haitian migrants even worse, and harm both nations' economies. Right now, Haitians are fleeing their country for the Dominican Republic due to climate change and also due to the economy. Gangs have also gained control over the government because the government has been weakened after the assassination of President Moise. The gangs have reportedly laid siege to key fuel supplies in Port-au-Prince, causing shortages of fuel, shortages of water, and other basic supplies. You should know that both Haiti and the Dominican Republic share a more than 240-mile border on the island of Hispaniola. That's right, folks. Let's move on. We're going to go now to Penn State University. It has scrapped a racial justice center, and now its black faculty members are questioning the college's commitment to diversity. Back in May, the then university's chief of staff promised that the president would meet with black faculty members to discuss their concerns, but that has yet to happen. The university's own Select Presidential Commission on Racism, Bias, and Community Safety recommended a Center for Racial Justice over a year ago. Despite making up just under 6% of faculty nationwide, African Americans make up only about 3% of the faculty there at Penn State as of 2020. And of course, you know, Penn State is a Big Ten university. Those are your stories, folks. Thanks for joining me. Stay with me. You know, I've got Missing, the Slay Word, also Ask Dr. K, and the International Report. And don't forget your financial news. Stay with me. Okay, your Slay Word of the Week this week is adamant, A-D-A-M-A-N-T, adamant. It is an adjective, which means it describes the noun. You know, that's what the adjective does. It modifies or describes the noun. Its origin, it was first recorded before 1150 in Middle English, all right? The definition is unshakable or insistent, especially in making a position or opinion. Another word for that is unyielding. Adamant, that is your Slay Word. Let's use it in a sentence. I am adamant that Donald Trump, oh yes, folks, should serve some jail time for his numerous offenses if he is convicted. All right, second sentence, FDA regulators are adamant that a vaccine is not approved until its effectiveness and safety has been demonstrated. Adamant. That's your Slay Word of the Week. Use it all week to level up your vocab. It means unyielding, unshakable, or insistent, especially in maintaining a position or opinion. That's your Slay Word. Stay with me.
Anyone who thinks that slavery ended in the 1860s with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation are grievously wrong.
If we caught a bird, we ate through the feathers and ate the bird. We didn't have nothing to cook on. We didn't have no stove.
You know who you are and who we are. We're still on that big plantation.
She was bonded to them until they died. She was their slave.
They said, well, we're going to be killed tonight.
Could that same white dude keep terrorists there, or Russian spies, or the KGB, and the government wouldn't know it? No.
They thought I was beat so bad that I couldn't do nothing, but I did.
Where are you? We're out there looking for you and all of our missing African American girls, and with your help, we will find them. Chicago police say Tianda Slater was 15 years old when she was reported missing from the 1000 block of North Milwaukee Avenue in the Noble Square neighborhood. Slater is 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs 115 pounds, and has brown hair. She was last seen wearing a black windbreaker, light blue ripped jeans, and black gym shoes. Please call 1-800-THE-LOST, 800-843-5678 with any information about the case of Tianda Slater. Where are you, Tianda Slater? We are looking for you, and we won't stop until you're found. And with the community's help, we know we'll find you. Back at you, we have the international report for you, and there is some very disturbing news about our wildlife. What's going on, Eni?
Oh, it is very disturbing indeed. The World Wildlife Fund released a report on Thursday, this past Thursday, that basically says that in the last 50 years, there's been a devastating decline in the world's wildlife populations. And it's because of humans. We have cleared forests, polluted the air, polluted the land and sea, and these animals have just disappeared. And the findings were based on the World Zoological Survey, and that features 32,000 wildlife populations of 5,230 species from across the world have declined. It's quite bad in Latin America and the Caribbean, in Africa, and in Asia. And we're trying to bring attention to it 2 months before the world meets again for one of the COP, you know, the environmental meetings. It's going to be held in Canada, I believe, because China was not ready to host it. And we're hoping that we can bring this devastating matter to the attention of world leaders.
I'll tell you something, because have they said anything about why there's more in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa?
No, it just says that it's seen some of the steepest declines in that part of the world. But, you know, look at the sea, look at the plastics in the sea. Those islands are dominated by the sea life. So you can imagine that those marine animals have been destroyed.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I hope we can pull this off, i.e. saving the planet that we happen to live on. Let's just hope everybody's on the same page on that one, because if they're not, we're in trouble.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is, the analogy of the lights flashing red, I think is very, very powerful, because it should stop us dead in our tracks. It stopped me dead in my tracks when I heard this.
Let's hope it stops the people who make the rules dead in their tracks, because so far they've been failing us. Thank you so much, Dr. Inyang Ebong-Harship. Of course, she brings you the International Report every single week, letting you know what is going on around the world and how it impacts your life. Thank you, Edie.
Thank you, Carol.
Stay with me. Here is your financial news. Folks, the Black home ownership gap is at the highest rate since the 1960s, when private race-based discrimination was legal. Not a thing has changed. Isn't that interesting? Matter of fact, it's getting worse. But we all know that discriminatory lending practices called redlining have always been an impediment to Black home ownership and wealth generation. And even though housing discrimination has been outlawed for 50 years, Black home ownership rates are at the same place they were, okay, when the 1968 Fair Housing Act was passed. And the Urban Institute, well, it says this: since 2001, the Black home ownership rate has seen the most dramatic drop of any racial or ethnic group, folks. It has declined 5%, compared with 1% decline for white families and increases for Hispanic and Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. A study from the American Housing Service found that Black buyers are more likely to have higher, in case you want to know why is the homeownership rate declining? Here's why. A study from the American Housing Service found that Blacks are more likely to have higher mortgage rates than white buyers of not only the same income, but also lower income. So a white person with a lower income than yours can get a lower mortgage rate than you can. Now, come on, we all know the game on that one, okay? Blacks also are more than twice as likely to be rejected for mortgages compared to white home buyers. So it's very institutionalized racism, and it's very, very, very directed at us. We understand the game. All right, let's go on. 34% of millennials say they're behind on their retirement savings. You got to catch up. All right, millennials find it hard to save for retirement, and 46% of those surveyed say it's because of financial hardship. 43% say it's because they needed to step away from the workforce to provide care for a child or an aging parent. Make sure you are saving in that 401k and getting those matching savings. The contribution limit on 401k accounts in 2023 has gone up to $22,500. And make sure you contribute to that health savings account, that HSA, because your contributions are pre-tax and can be invested within the account, okay? And all growth inside that account is tax-free. You can also withdraw the funds from your HSA tax-free for qualified medical expenses, all right? And then finally today, more than 1 million Americans are now rationing insulin. Of course, that's okay with the United States because it is just so freaking expensive. Humans require insulin to live. You can't live without it, okay? Insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas to regulate glucose in your blood. The rationing of insulin is most among individuals under the age of 65 and the uninsured. Black insulin users are more likely to report rationing insulin at 23.2%. That's a very high. Diabetes is currently the 7th leading cause of death in the U.S., but a 2017 study suggests the number of African Americans dying from diabetes is actually much higher, and that's because diabetes is frequently overlooked as a cause of death. Interesting. Boy, I'll tell you, this system is, this institutionalized racism is an extreme problem, and we have to fight it every way we can. Stay with me. I'll be right back with more.
I'm just sick and tired of us not spending time together lately.
I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry I've been spending time with you. I've been working on this big deal. It's gonna bring a lot more money to the household for it.
What you doing here, boss? Yeah, just checking to see if you still got it.
You take this work. Your partner. I don't want it back.
I've seen the movies, man. I know how this goes.
You see the movies, huh? Did you see Goodfellas? New Jack City?
Everything I do is for you. Like, I just need a little bit more time, man. Fine bullshit. Like I said, he's gonna call any second.
Why don't you take a look at this video? Guess what? It's starring you.
Well, thanks for staying with us as we close our show out with you in mind, with your health in mind, with Dr. K. Welcome, Dr. K.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Well, October, we discussed breast cancer forever. Guess what? It's November. And I heard today it's also called Movember because it's Men's Month, ladies and gentlemen, and it's Prostate Awareness Month. And of course, we're going to call it Prostate Prevention Month. And all month long, we're going to be talking about lifestyle, diet, etc., that lead to the diagnosis of prostate cancer so that we can control some of these situations. Some people are going to get prostate cancer, but you know what? Maybe with some modifications of our lifestyle, some of our men can avoid it. So the first thing we're going to discuss today is smoking. It took a long time to figure out whether or not smoking was related to prostate cancer. Well, it turns out that smokers are usually diagnosed with a more aggressive form of prostate cancer if they are smoking at the time of diagnosis, and they are more likely to die of that disease. Now, people who previously smoked and quit smoking, their risk of prostate cancer goes down to the regular population. So quitting smoking is good. Why is this so important today when we know that smoking is down? People, marijuana smoking is up. So if the same 20-year-old male smokes weed on a regular basis, who would have smoked a cigarette in, say, the 1950s or the 1960s, that person is increasing their chances of developing prostate cancer. So all forms of smoking can lead to prostate cancer. And we'll continue next week. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. K. And thank you for joining us here on Impact News. You know, we're with you every week with up-to-the-minute, very important, very impactful information here on Impact News. And from all of us here at Impact News, we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Dr. K.
Thanks for having me.